Do you want to get better at analyzing and studying fights? Well, if you do, this video is for you. This video was inspired by Jethro Suter 2331, who said, "Hey, do you have a tutorial on how to analyze fights? You have many film study videos. I'd like to know what to look out for watching fights in boxing." I've gotten this question quite a few times, so I feel it's about time that I take some time to answer this question. Now, why should you listen to me? My name is Coach Keith Kepner. I've coached boxing, professional amateur boxers for about going on 15 years now. And I've built guys from complete zero, never putting on a pair of gloves before, and brought them to elite levels, including professional and fighting on national television. And I've also boxed myself in the United States and in Mexico. I was mentored by my father, who's a professional boxing coach for multiple decades, and he was mentored and coached as a fighter under the great Chuck Bodak, who worked with over 50 world champions and was the Olympic coach for Muhammad Ali. Now, let's talk about how we can analyze and study a fight. Now, what are you looking to gain by doing this? There are three main areas or reasons that you would have to analyze and study a fight, in my opinion. Or these are the three reasons I think you should, not just for pure entertainment purposes and to be a fanboy, but to actually get better at this thing called boxing, whether you are just really into boxing, maybe you are actually a competitor, or maybe you are a coach, or maybe soon to be coach. First one is understanding tactics and strategies of the fight in its entirety. All right, that's the first one. So getting a good grasp of what is going on strategically and tactically throughout the course of the entire fight by both fighters, the adjustments that are made, and all the different shades of what's going on. Then you have studying it or studying a specific fighter. Right? That's a great reason to do analysis and study of film, is to study a specific fighter or a few different specific fighters to garner from them best practices and things that you can apply to your game because you might share certain things in common with them. It might be physical dimensions, athletic dimensions, maybe even mental aspects, psychological aspects with that fighter. Then you also have analyzing and studying it for scoring. I see oftentimes nowadays, so many people, they will watch fights and I don't feel like they know how to score a freaking fight. And maybe if they do know how to score a freaking fight, I don't think they pay attention, or there's a whole lot of things. We'll get into it. But before you go out there and saying, "Oh, I thought fighter A won that fight and beat the hell out of fighter B," and you're quoting CompuBox as the reasoning for why they did, right there you're showing me that you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. Excuse me, that was a little strong. You're ignorant. Might not be an idiot, but you're ignorant, which means you don't know. All right, so let me help you now. All right, so first basic universal tip is watch the fight with no commentary. All right. The commentary is most of the time not helpful. It may sway you a certain way than if you watched it with no commentary, because we're all people and we all get influenced by people, whether we like to think so or not. So I recommend you just turn it off, maybe put on some light music in the background and watch and actually focus to what the hell is going on and make your analysis on your own merit versus what some talky person is saying. Most of the time, boxing commentators, frankly, suck. They suck. They annoy the hell out of me half the time or more than half the time. And most people that in my opinion know something about boxing or just fighting in general are pretty annoyed by a lot of these commentators. Now, obviously, you'll have commentators that are former world champions and also boxing coaches. When you had the great Emanuel Stewart doing commentary on a fight, that was fairly helpful. But you, of course, had all the other chiming ins of everybody else, okay? So, yes, absolutely, sometimes there is commentary that is interesting and beneficial, but a lot of times it's a lot of nonsense at best, and at worst, it's misleading the audience or the viewer, I've heard. All right, so first, let's talk about understanding the tactics and strategies of the fight. The first thing is, and now again, to be clear, these are not all things that are done together. These are just different options for how you can approach it and for how I approach it. And maybe you can take some of that, plug it into your game. Watch once full speed and then watch it again 3/4 speed. It's amazing the difference when you watch something a little bit slower, because all you guys will attest to this. Watching a fight in person versus on a film, even if it's a good quality film, is different. It's really different. You can see a lot more things in person than on film. What I think is closer to in person than just simply full speed film is 3/4, right? Or a little, you could say half speed, 0.5 speed. A little bit slower so you can see all the wrinkles that are going on in the fight. You'll see how, oh, that shot didn't actually completely land. You'll see, oh man, that shot that I thought was blocked actually did land, and all the little things, and you can also see little details of what's going on defensively and offensively, and different feints, different subtle movements that are occurring in a fight, and it is just very, very beneficial. So I definitely recommend you giving that a try with maybe a fighter that you like a lot, right? When we talk about fighting, watching specific fighters, but in general, do 2 watch throughs. This is a great standard piece of advice for anybody doing a fight analysis, is go through and watch it twice. Watch one guy one time and watch the other guy the other time to look for what's happening, for how they're starting, to try to get a little bit with where they're coming from, what they're doing, what they're getting hit by, and what they're executing on well. And again, to see all the detail. And then that leads me to the third point, which this is a general point actually for all of fight study analysis, and you'll see me touch on this with other points, is watch the center between the 2 guys. I remember asking my dad this early on when I was getting into boxing, seriously, when I was about 17 or so. And I was like, how do you see, where are you looking? Like, what are you looking at? I'm looking at one guy, and I just start watching the one guy, and then maybe I get distracted, look at the audience and whatnot. Where are you looking? He said, I'm looking right in between both of them. And from my understanding, that's what a good judge does as well. You look in between the 2 fighters. Use your peripheral vision, which is a thing, to see what is going on between those 2 guys, because it's easy to get focused. And also, that's where our peripheral is not as detailed as our pure focus vision. So if you're just focused and staring on one guy, it can sway sometimes what's going on. You want to try to make it equal as much as possible, and that is done by watching in between the 2 fighters as much as possible. Now, what to look for when you're watching the fight for tactical and strategical purposes, right? In its totality, you are looking for what is working offensively in the fight, what both fighters are doing offensively that's being effective. Now, think about it. This is where you have to have some boxing knowledge. You can't just go in there with not knowing anything about boxing and watching a fight and expecting to understand the strategies and tactics going on. You need to have a foundational understanding of what is generally good offense. What are, general good offense, right? What's the most important punch in boxing? The jab. Who's jabbing more? How is that affecting the fight? Who's not jabbing? Why are they not jabbing? Who's putting combinations together? Who's headhunting? All those things offensively that are going on. And what are they doing positionally, footwork-wise, to get in those positions or get out of those positions, etc. So you're looking for that with both fighters. What are they having success with throwing punches? What's landing? What's not landing as well? And then what openings are getting revealed because of certain body positions or defensive reactions to punches? Openings get revealed. Or when someone throws, openings get revealed. So you're looking for both of those things. I'll give you a couple examples. With defensively, let's say somebody gets really square when they block certain punches. That shows you that, okay, if I throw a hook, it's going to open up something straight down the middle. Or they bend hard at the waist when punches come. That helps you notice that, hey, there would be certain opportunities for punches. Let's see if he takes that. Or if someone has a reaction of any type to anything. Or when someone's throwing, they tend to always, let's say, go wide. And like if you watch my stuff, when they go wide, you go narrow. You go straight and look for the opportunities for straight punches and see if those adjustments are made, and watch out for those adjustments as they're being made. Again, you need to have understanding of boxing in order to see these things. How does this occur? This occurs from time in the gym. This occurs from time in the ring yourself. And also this occurs from time working with other people, or at least being around other people doing boxing. Now, you have what answers each guy is coming up with, right? So what solutions are getting created? You see, I'll give you an example. Let's say somebody is throwing a combination and they're always exiting off to one side. I remember this one fight, I was studying the fighter that was getting exited on, started shooting a hook that guy started running into. Then the guy's answer was, a few rounds later, he started going under the hook that the guy was trying to throw to stop him from exiting. Then the answer was then to shoot the hook for the body, and that shut down the exit again. Now the guy wasn't able to make the next adjustment that could be made after that. So what are the answers that are getting found out? Let's say a guy's shooting shots and taking pictures afterwards. He's getting nailed. Is he coming up with solutions? Or let's say someone's catching someone with a certain punch. Are they going to react defensively or offensively in a certain way that nullifies that? And see if those answers are getting made, or see if the other guy maybe stops doing it. Because that is something that occurs as well. Fighters are not robots. People are not robots. And a fighter will sometimes do something that is perfectly right and working and stop doing it. Great example I think of more modern boxing is with Oscar De La Hoya when he fought Floyd Mayweather. He lost a split decision to Floyd Mayweather, and his jab was working. And they asked him, Oscar, why'd you stop jabbing? He said, it wasn't the night of the jab. But hey, man, the jab was working. Keep it working. And until it stops working, don't stop working it. So you'll notice guys might lay off of something that is working. And sometimes there's a reason for it. Sometimes there's not. Sometimes there is a reason that a guy stops jabbing and a guy does certain things that take away the jab. But also, sometimes a guy just walks away from what's working. It happens. And there's no rhyme or reason. But you want to be watching for it. This is where it's good to watch it slower motion, to see if you can see, hey, was there something? And sometimes it can be one thing. Sometimes it can be one counter that takes away someone's punch that just worried them enough that they don't want to do that ever again. I don't think this happened in that fight specifically, but there's definitely times in fights that I've seen, and definitely times that I've been in the ring that I've experienced, where I throw one punch and I get countered in a certain way, and I shy away from that punch now. So we're all human, and we all have these types of experiences. All right, now, next one. What general patterns is each guy engaging in? I kind of touched on this earlier, but again, are they throwing certain combos? Are they doing certain things movement-wise that need to have an answer for, or is the answer? Then, going on to number 2, studying a specific fighter. All right, so let's talk about how to do that, because that is a big benefit of fight study and fight analysis, and frankly, more of what I did, specifically with my father when he was coaching me. We'd spend every night sitting down, watching classic boxing, and whether we were just like sitting at home or when we were living in Mexico and I lived in a little cabin in this little kind of complex with my parents, and come over every night, and we'd do our film study we would do James Toney, Joe Frazier, Dwight Muhammad Quayi, Evander Holyfield, Bobby Chez, a lot of Sugar Ray Robinson, of course, right? A lot of good fighters, Joe Louis. And so studying a specific fighter. Now, you need to focus on your guy in this situation, but what are you focusing on? Here's something. Try to get into their mind psychologically. All right, what do I mean by that? Try to get and embrace their mentality for what they are thinking about and feeling and exhibiting then, therefore, through their posture in the ring, and see if you can embody that a little bit. It's very, very helpful. I've seen a lot of guys do this, and I did this myself. Specifically, the fighter that I did this a lot with was Dwight Muhammad Quayi, and then later towards the end of me boxing, actually Muhammad Ali a little bit, because just that relaxation, I was able to finally embody it by getting in a certain mindset that I felt was similar to Ali. And then with Dwight Muhammad Quayi, he started boxing later in life, 25 years old, and his attitude, grit, mean attitude, is really something that I related to. But then also, when you do a study of a fighter, you want to be connected with them psychologically as well as tactically, technically, and physically. Now, because sometimes that's what we're missing. Because remember, it's skill, will, and conditioning, strength and conditioning. So the will part, though, you got the skill, you got the strength and conditioning, but the will part, that's the psychology. And you should definitely watch my psychology of boxing video if you haven't already, or if you have, maybe watch it again. because it's just such an important part of the game. The difference between number one and number two in the world is not necessarily physical. Most of the time, it's not. It's psychological. Most of the guys that in the top 10 of a weight class they have similar gifts and similar talents and similar preparation. But what separates the top from the second and third and fourth place is that little X factor, which is something upstairs. Now, when we're jumping, let's see here. Did I jump ahead to? Okay. So see what they do best and identify where the holes are as well. All right. So this is something that's going to break your heart, but you need to do it. You need to watch who beat them, the person that you're studying, because you need to watch where the holes are in the tactics and strategies and style that you are doing an analysis of and also trying to take tools from. If you're unaware of where the traps are, where the holes are, where the gaps in the game are, then you are going to get exploited in the same way they will, because you're probably not as good as they are, honestly. Or at least don't bank on it, right? Maybe you'll be better, but don't bank on that. Bank on you being a little bit worse than them, filling in the little gaps and holes that got exposed on them. And, heck, then you don't need to be better than them. And you have those holes filled, and you'll be able to continue to climb upward in your game. So watch who beat them, see what they do well, of course, right? See what pieces they put together and what is effective. But what you don't need to do is watch for the cuteness. All right. So I talked about the psychology, yes, but don't watch for the showboating, the stylistic things. And this is again where it takes a understanding of boxing in order to see what this is and what this isn't. But what is actually effective technique and what is smoke. All right. There's a difference between real technique and smoke. Don't get distracted by the smoke. You need to mimic the actual fire. We will mimic all this stuff, which is not affecting the game positively. I see it all the time. Guys will copy guys posturing, meaning like little things they do, little cute smiles they do in ways that they shuffle their feet and all this other stuff. And they're not mimicking the psychology, the actual psychology of the fighter, and also the tools of the trade that got that fighter and make that fighter who they are. Now, big news, guys. It is out. I'm very happy to announce that I've partnered with True Coach. It's a #1 personal training app in the world. And in it, I am taking on 5 people, only 5 people right now, for custom boxing workouts. So you definitely want to check this out. Like I said, I'm only taking on 5 people right now. And what I will do is work closely with you to build out a custom program that is encompassing not only boxing skills training, but also strength conditioning that is associated exactly with what your goals are with wherever you are with boxing, whether you're a complete beginner, intermediate, advanced, it doesn't matter. I got you covered. Now, what makes this thing so cool, though, is that not only are there videos that I put in with everything that I put in for your workouts and everything else, but also there's a place right there where you put a video of you doing it. So therefore, I can get that analysis where I can see exactly what you're doing and give you real feedback, just like I'm right there in the gym with you. This is a great opportunity for anybody that maybe doesn't have a good gym close to you or a good coach close to you, right? A lot of us are not all blessed to have what I was blessed with, which is to have a very good coach be my father in my own house. So I want to give that same gift to you guys. And then as well, a lower tier that is open for everyone and anyone is 4-week boxing programs. Same thing. You can put in, I got the videos of everything you do, daily workouts right there in that app. It's the best personal training app in the world. And you can also fill in right there what you did, and we can communicate right there about your progress, everything else, what you need to work on, everything else, and you can put in videos of you doing it, so I can give you real-time feedback right there, right after your workout, and help you progress and get to the next level, guys. So check out those options. It's a complete game changer. All right, now let's talk about the third macro category: scoring a fight. All right, we're analyzing the fight for the necessity of scoring it, because that's also an important way to make a determination what the hell what the hell happened in the fight if a fighter really did do what they needed to do. Because if you didn't win, you didn't really do what you needed to do. All right. Now, number one, above all, like I talked about earlier, we need to understand the basics of boxing, the foundation of boxing, how things work. We also need to understand the scoring of boxing. Now, I assume we're talking about pro boxing here. Most of us are studying fights of pros, but same thing with amateurs. You need to understand what is the scoring criteria. With pro boxing, the scoring criteria is number one, clean, effective punches. Clean, effective punches. Clean, effective punches. Clean means they actually hit a part of the body that is a scoring area part of the body. All right? Effective means it's hard. That's what an effective punch is. So therefore, a harder punch is more effective. A less hard punch is less effective. That is why in pro boxing, as it should be in amateur boxing, but it isn't. At least at this point of making this video, maybe they will finally change it back. I feel like that might be coming down the pipe, but they've changed amateur boxing rules multiple times over the decades, from the time when my dad fought in the CYO in Chicago, where it was pro scoring. What other sport is the amateur score different from the pros? I don't know, because I don't know much about other sports, but I would assume that they're all probably scored pretty similar, because they should be. Boxing is one of the only sports that isn't like that, and it hurts the sport. All right. So, clean, effective punches. That is the most important thing. Everything else is less important. Okay? Ring generalship, right? Your ability to control the ring, or to be in the ring, or control the action in the ring the way that you want to control it, things like defense and things like that, style, right? All that other stuff, not important in comparison to clean, effective punches. All right? Now, it's scored on a rounds basis, meaning that somebody, and this gets me all the time, you can land less punches in a fight and still win the fight. That can be true in an amateur fight. It can be true in a pro fight. You guys that know what you're doing know what I'm talking about. You guys that don't know, let me just say this, or just if you don't know yet, right? I'm not trying to down on anyone and make you feel belittled, because I'm here to just help. Let's say you have two guys going at it, let's say for a 12-round fight, and one of the guys lands maybe 3 more punches, hard punches, every round in comparison to the other guy. So he won each one of those rounds. And therefore, if you tally up all the punches in the totality of the fight, he would have landed more punches. But what if? What if in round 11, only in round 11, but in round 11, the fighter that is losing the fight, who's behind a few punches every round, throws 60 punches more than the other guy. Doesn't knock him down, doesn't stop him, but throws and lands 60 more punches. All right, so it's a freaking beating round, but it's just that one round. Yeah, at the end of that fight, if you look at CompuBox or whatever, yes, that fighter is going to have more punches landed than the other fighter, but that fighter will still have lost because they won round 11 big, but it's a 10-point must system. You can only win a max of 10 points per round. You can't win 11, 12, 13, 14, or 60 points in that round. It's not a whole encompassing of points. It's just the 10 is the max. And if that guy lost it, not with getting knocked down and just being that horrible, at best you could say it was a 10, or at worst you could say for that guy it was a 10-8. But let's say it was a 10-9. He still lost the whole fight. Even if it was a 10-8, he still lost the whole fight. All right? So remember that. It's not about the totality of punches in a fight, but it's about how many punches that were landed cleanly and effectively per round, and then add that up across however many rounds the fight is, and that is what determines the winner. All right, guys. And also, too, it's not who's more beat up looking, right? You can have at the end of a fight, one guy looks beat to hell, the other one doesn't, and the guy looks beat to hell won the fight. Because, again, it might have just been a couple rounds that the guy got that damage, or maybe just happened to get hit in a certain way. It looks like that. It's not a beauty contest at the end of the fight or anything like that. Or it's not who finished more strong, right? I remember I was watching this with one fight where I think it was like one of the Peterson brothers, and he didn't get his motor started till like round 7 or 8. And he went on to win every round after round 8, but it was too late. He had already lost all the rounds before that, so it didn't matter how much he beat the living hell out of this guy. If he didn't drop him or get him out of there after round 7 or so, it's a no point. He lost the fight. All right. So watch between the two fighters. Like I talked about earlier, watch between the two fighters. Easy to watch one guy and miss what's getting hit. We're all guilty of this from time to time, and you'll kind of watch one guy, and therefore you'll notice more when he gets hit or what he does well even. Try to watch in between. Then try to acknowledge your own bias. Right? This is something big. It's something that I do my best to. I'm not perfect. We all have biases. And unfortunately, from my understanding of the way that cognitive biases work, even if you know about cognitive biases, it doesn't mean they're necessarily less. All right? It doesn't necessarily mean that. But I think it is helpful that if you acknowledge your bias, then you're able to kind of maybe guard against it in your scoring, right? You notice, okay, I'm tending to score when I see this guy's hands moving versus is this guy actually connecting punches, right? Or you have a horse in the race where you're like, yeah, I bet my friend that this guy won, so that in that very definition, you're biased, okay? So do your best to just be just be completely objective with studying. All right. Then no eating, drinking, or talking. If you got your friends, you're yipping and yapping back and forth with your friends, you're looking at the chats, you're eating food, you're drinking, all that stuff. All that stuff is stuff that a judge is not allowed to do. Why? Because it distracts you. It takes your focus off from literally a split second. That's what makes the sport so hard. Because with other sports, other combat sports, like let's say things like jiu-jitsu and stuff like that, you don't have things happening like literally in a split moment that are the most definitive criteria, right? It's like a position, things like that. It takes a little time. You have a second or a couple seconds. But when a punch hits, that's a less than a second time that something did something, and that's it. And if you missed it, if you blinked, you could not score that score that round for somebody. And then that changes the whole course of the fight. All right. So it's just very, very, very important. All right. Have a piece of paper to keep track, right? So keep track and tally of your rounds so you don't have to be focused on that because, again, you need absolute mental focus on what the hell is going on in there. And if you lapse for a moment, just like in a fight, it's going to cause trouble and inconsistencies with your scoring. All right, guys. I hope this was helpful for you. Make sure you check out my Patreon below, which is how you join up for the only 5 people that I'm going to be bringing on for the custom coaching on TrueCoach. And then also jump in on that 4-week programs. I have one standard 4-week program right now that I've used for some of my short fighters and some of my tall fighters. It's beneficial for both and has everything that I talked about. It has every day structured out for you, exactly what you should be doing for a 4-week cycle. And then you can also put videos of you training and doing the workouts to get feedback directly from me on there. So you're going to want to jump on this 100%. Also, if you enjoy this video, make sure you watch one of these videos right here because it's exactly what you need. Also, if you want to help support this channel, consider becoming a channel member or drop me a super thanks by going down and clicking that heart with the $sign in it. I use it to buy coffee to keep me going because right now it's late at night while I'm doing this video, but I want to make sure I help out this community because like I said earlier, we're not all blessed to have a professional boxing coach as a father and to have that resource that I had that allowed me to get to where I'm at. All right, guys, thanks for your support, and I'll see you on the other side.